What is up, Packers fans? Welcome in to an all-new Pack-A-Day Live, and now better than ever because it is featuring the one and only Mike Wahle. You can find him on social media at MikeWahle68. Mike, we've got a lot to catch up on. There's been just a few things that have happened since the last time we talked, but first of all, I am incredibly excited to be chatting with you here. We're going to be usually doing this on Mondays. I know you had a little bit of a conflict this week. First of all, let's start there. How you doing? And tell us about that conflict.
Yeah, Andy, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. And this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it for the course of the season. I actually got to come up to Green Bay and check out the game this weekend. They had a great alumni event. I was one of the few players that was there that was not on the championship team. So aside from not being on, I think it was Super Bowl 45 championship team was there, and then they let a couple stragglers come in and do the old dog and pony thing. But I'll tell you what, we were just talking offline. What a phenomenal environment. It really is a utopia village for football fans. And every time you go up there, you just feel so appreciative of the Packer community. Not only I'm talking about the organization, everybody works in it, but also the community as far as the fan base and that greater region, man. It's so special. And guys like me, you get drafted to a certain place. If I get drafted somewhere else, maybe I don't have a career. Just because it matters where you get drafted for most of the players in the league. And I feel we're so fortunate to be drafted by those guys. So just another great trip, great experience. And now happy to talk Packer football with you.
Yeah, right back at you. And it's, as somebody who's been here basically my entire life, I always have to kind of remind myself. I had some friends that were in town and, for the game this past weekend, and, they're seeing Lambeau Field and the area surrounding it. And like, they're just, like you said, like in this utopia. And I will be the first to admit it's very easy to take for granted when you've been, miles away from it, just very few miles away from it your entire life. And I still, there's nothing like being around the stadium though. Every single time I'm around it, every time I go in it, every time you go and like sit in the stands and walk through that little tunnel, there's still nothing like it whatsoever. And yes, if anyone has not been to Lambeau for a game, I don't care what it is, you can go there for anything. And it's just amazing being there. It is a mecca of sports, and very, very lucky to be involved in it in any way, shape, or form.
The only thing I'm just waiting for them to change the Don Hudson Center. They got to do some brick on that thing to keep it up with the Joneses everywhere else, man. Because everything around there looks brand spanking new. And then I'm like, I look over to the Don Hudson Center. I'm like, oh, okay, now I recognize that. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because it's old school, but what a great place.
When did the Hudson Center open? They've probably got to be due for a remodel on that thing pretty darn soon, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know when it was open, but it's been the same since I was there, obviously. And based on how many times they've kind of upgraded different, various parts of the stadium, whether we're talking about the locker room or even just, at one point, the entire Packers facility was on the other side of the stadium, right? So they moved it over to where it is now. Then they brought it down a little bit further. Then they opened up the new weight room in the kitchen. Then they put the underground parking and all the new office. So it's like they've done all this work over there. But you look over there and you go, I think they put up some brick siding up on the fence there, but that's about it. So they're trying to keep something old school. Old school. It's pretty cool.
Well, let's jump into this because we got a lot, obviously, to discuss. I want to start. I know that the topic has been, discussed ad nauseum by now, but haven't had the chance to pick your brain on it. Yep. What were you thinking the moment that you heard the Packers are trading 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark for Micah Parsons?
This addresses the need that everybody wanted to see. Certainly this was top of my board as far as what should happen in the offseason that wasn't addressed, as I'm sure it was with everybody else. Look, Micah Parsons, there's a handful of guys in the league, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think he's the best pass rusher in the league, but as far as just disruptive people that are better humans than everybody else on the field, he is one of the top 3 or 4 guys in the entire National Football League. And so you're getting this dude that you can put him pretty much at any position on defense, and he's probably going to be your best guy, right? Yeah. So you can put him at defensive tackle, linebacker, outside linebacker, and he can play safety, star position. He can play anywhere. And so the matchup issues that he is now going to cause from a game planning standpoint. So take away how many snaps he plays, take away all of that, and just, okay, where is he going to line up? Which one of our linemen is going to suffer this week because he can play against the center, the guard, or the tackle? How are we going to address that? And then think about all of the things that come along with that for Rashawn Gary, for some of these defensive tackles, for the passing game in general, just having to always account for him. So I love what he brings from a game plan standpoint. You obviously love his production. And then, the other thing that you have to bring up with this particularly after the Lions game. And let's start by saying the Lions' interior offensive line looked absolutely like tragically bad.
Yep.
But you have to have concern because you just got rid of one of the better Green Bay Packers of the last decade in Kenny Clark, right? I'm not worried about the 2 first-round draft picks just because I don't know that we've drafted particularly powerfully in recent years in the first round, although we've got some guys that can certainly play. But when you look at Kenny and all that he's brought to this team from the locker room production standpoint, like you're taking a huge loss, and you get rid of TJ Slate and you get rid of Kenny Clark, you have your top 2 guys on the defensive line gone. So what does that mean for the run game? What does it mean for? So the fact that we showed up and played so well up front, and with the fact that Devontae Wyatt and Wooden and Carl Brown in particular did so well against that interior offensive line, which I'll admit is not the standard, I think, for the Detroit Lions.
Right.
You got to feel really good about that trade right now, because now you've got so many weapons on the outside. You've got so many ways that you can attack this defense. Their NASCAR package is just going to be absolutely elite, because we saw like Lucas Van Ness looks a lot better against a wide three than he does at defensive end right now. So this is exciting, I think, if you're in the organization, and of course, as a fan.
One of the, I guess it seems it pales in comparison to Micah Parsons at this point, but one of the, noteworthy acquisitions up until that point was their new defensive line coach, DeMarcus Covington. What did you see as we kind of transitioned into this Packers-Lions game? What did you see from the defensive line that gave you some hope that, like, hey, maybe the new guy is actually, creating some good things here?
Yeah, this is the first thing I thought of when I decided to go on social media again was, we're going to talk about this trade, but really the defensive line coach is probably the most impactful hire that they've had this offseason, because when you watch the pass rush, well, first of all, the run techniques were fantastic. Just the intensity to the ball was fantastic. But let's just talk about strictly the pass rush. The way that we collapse the pocket, and obviously you're going to have a pass rush plan for a guy like Jared Goff, and you're probably the pass rush plan is probably, let's not let him step forward. Let's make him go out to the side, right? Because he's not going to throw on the run horizontally as well.
Yep.
But the way that they attacked that interior offensive line, and the way that the defensive ends, really for the first time in a long time, decided to go back underneath and collapse the pocket and force these guys to exit over the top, force Jared Goff to exit over the top. That's something that you and I have talked about for literally years that they've never done. They started doing it. You see the effectiveness of it. And from a defensive line perspective, the way that those guys use their backside hand in the run game is something that we just haven't seen from a technical standpoint as consistently as we did last week. They really dominated the line of scrimmage. And I just love the idea. I think Von Miller said this a couple weeks ago. And everyone talks about my ghost. 85, 90% of my pass rushes are speed to power. And what did you see from the Green Bay Packers? Really, we saw a lot of speed to power, collapse the pocket, make guys uncomfortable, right? And I think, just for me personally, just being from the offensive line perspective of this and understanding how difficult that is, the feeling of just getting walked by a guy is literally the worst feeling in the world. And so if you can consistently do that over the course of an entire game, particularly in the third and fourth quarter when they're going to have to throw, you have this mental advantage. And so that's what I think that D-line guys, the D-line coaches really brought is like, I'm giving you a blueprint of how to dominate over the course of an entire game. And it's not going to be like, oh, I taught this guy a really good hand move, or I taught this guy a good spin technique. It's like, no, I'm teaching you a style of play that is just fundamentally better than what you've been doing.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I was really impressed as I went through the defensive tape with the defensive line. Again, we'll see what it looks like against some of the other lines. As you mentioned, the interior of Detroit's line, Mahogany and Glasgow and Ratledge did not look great in that particular game. So we'll get a better feel of if that was due to Green Bay being, really good, or Detroit being not so good, or probably somewhere in the middle in a mix of a little bit of both. But I was really optimistic from what I saw. Anything else? The defense was flying around and coming in waves against that offense for Detroit. Anything else stand out to you from a defensive point of view?
You just love the way they attack the football. The swarm and the tackle. I thought they were a lot better, just more consistent. I remember Bullard had a missed tackle or two, but you're not seeing a lot of missed tackles. Two guys that really stood out to me on the defense outside of the defensive line. Number one, obviously, Adrian Cooper is now. You're looking at him and going, who's better than he is, right? You start talking about, okay, is Fred Warner better? Is Roquan Smith better? He is at that level as far as being able to show a guard or a center something, give him something new and get to the tackle. He's elite. Has a nose for the football, really feels comfortable in this defense. I thought Quay Walker looked like a different player. Like I thought he was that much more patient when he needed to be patient. I thought he was that much more targeted when he needed to go. I really love the way that Quay played. I love the way that he is a field general more so now than ever before. But the other guy that's probably, I don't know how much everyone's talked about him. When you think about early in the game, even to the second quarter, Karen Valentine, his run defense was absolutely elite. Absolutely elite. The way he set the edge, the way that he would get upfield and force the blocker to take him on their side of the line of scrimmage at the cornerback position, that set the tone early on in the game where they couldn't rush the football. And it was, I don't know how much credit he got for it, but man, it was really special.
Mike, I am grinning ear to ear. When you started saying, like, I don't know how much a person, I'm like, in my mind, I'm saying, please say Carrington Valentine, please say Carrington Valentine, because I haven't heard much about it. Yeah. I'm just finishing up my full defensive analysis. I've got like 10 plays to go. And I think exactly 10 plays to go. And Carrington Valentine is all over my notes. There was a play early on. They brought him off that blitz and he runs all the way around the quarterback, all the way to the other side of the field.
They ran the flat pass on the other side. Yep.
Yes. And gets all the way to the other side and gets involved in the tackle. And he was like that all day long. Super communicative, really good in coverage, really good in run defense. He looked really, really good in this game. I thought on all layers, there was somebody like that. I thought Evan Williams played really well at safety. You mentioned Cooper and Quay, and we are in total lockstep too on Quay. The field general and just how different he looked, how much more confident he looked in that spot. It didn't feel like anything phased him whatsoever, that he was prepared for every situation and knowing exactly what to do. We are, like I said, in total lockstep. Those are multiple players that stood out to me as well.
There was a play in the second quarter where you can just see how the Detroit Lions had drawn it up on paper, where they were going to run a belly right, and the backside guard, the backside tackle had to go get 7 because he was probably going to be an A gap or B gap defender, and he saw the formation and late he shifted everybody over and just ran play side A gap, made the play. Cooper got it on the play as too. Everybody got in the play. I mean, it was all you can eat that day against that interior offensive line. But just oftentimes you set up yourself for success pre-snap. And the guys that are really, really elite in this league see something from that they've seen on tape, and then this is my base rule. I'm supposed to be a stack defender, an A-gap defender, et cetera, right? And then they see what the formation is, and they go, okay, I'm going to take a half a step here, a half a step there to distance myself from the person I think is blocking me, right? Because I have an intuition of what's happening. And he did that a number of times. That's the one that stands out right now in my mind. But he did that a number of times, just putting yourself in the position to make a play pre-snap. And that's, once you get to that level of thought and you continue to develop that side of it, like you become an unstoppable player.
For those of you in chat, we will get to some questions eventually. So if you guys do have some questions, feel free to get those in. We're just kind of breaking down Packers Lions. Mike is also going to be back tomorrow on our normal regularly scheduled episodes, and we'll be breaking down Packers Commander tomorrow as well. So we'll finish up Packers Lions here in just a moment and then get to some of your questions. But Mike, as we transition to the offensive side of the ball, what kind of stood out to you from a Packers offensive standpoint?
This is one of those games, and we've talked about this before, where like I'm a big proponent of, because we lined up a lot in 12 personnel, and we have weapons at tight end. We understand that, right? But when we talk about the run game, you've got Josh Jacobs, who's one of the better guys in the league, and we've reshuffled this offensive line a little bit. I thought Aaron Banks, just to put it out there now, I thought he played really well. When you bring extra people to the party, you got to make sure they like to dance. And the tight ends came up a little short against a really physical Detroit Lions front. Now, listen, they're missing McNeil, but they're still, obviously, with Hutchinson coming back, those guys are juiced up. They're a very, very physical team. I didn't think we did well on the perimeter as far as blocking, and I don't think we did a very good job at the tight end position, right? We put guys in situations where it's like maybe it's easier just to spread them out, stack 2 by 2, and let's just go 5 on 6 or something like that, because I thought we had the advantage up front, particularly on the interior offensive line. I thought Sean Ryan played really well. Obviously, our tackles were good. You don't like seeing Zach Tom go down. Rashid Walker, I thought, played a really good game. He looks fast. It's like I'm glad they made that decision. Yep. That I've kind of been talking about all preseason is let's not mess around with something that works really well. He's a really good player in this league, so I'm glad that was settled. Listen, the Packers ran a lot of long, how do we say it? Routes that take a long time to develop, long developing plays. They ran a lot of like 20-yard stops. They run a lot of like sail sevens, like on both sides. They're running a lot of stuff that takes a minute, and they obviously felt comfortable with their pass protection. And because those things weren't hitting, because Jack Campbell, and all these defensive backs were doing a really good job of covering our tight ends and our crosser players for the most part. You didn't see a lot of action. I mean, obviously Romeo Dobbs gets the deep ball. We had the wheel route by Jaden Reed. There's a couple plays in the game that kind of stand out as big plays, but it was kind of tough sledding for a lot of that game. And it was really, it was a great job of the Detroit Lions, but also sometimes we fall in love with certain personnel packages. And then you get into the game, you're like, man for man, it's not the same.
Right. No, I think that's well said. I did think the tight ends, especially from a blocking standpoint, obviously Kraft had the big touchdown. Musgrave just had the one catch that went in the flat. Probably should have done a little bit better with that play as well. But yeah, from a blocking standpoint, didn't do quite as much. I know there was, I want to pick your brain on this because there was a question on it as well. There was a question on Aaron Banks from Killer Kenny. I'm curious what Mike saw from Aaron Banks during his first game, both in pass protection and in run blocking. So I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, I thought he played super physical. Listen, I don't think that because McNeil's out for the Lions, there's no like elite pass rusher on that interior offensive line or defensive line. Just from a run blocking standpoint, getting guys off the spot, I thought he did a really good job. I think they had a couple communication issues with him in the left tackle. You saw him on the pulls; he was super physical. The way he rolled his hips through, generally, you really like what you saw. On the other side, if we just want to go into like Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan, I thought Sean Ryan. I thought they both played well. I just think, for me, Sean Ryan's a more physical player right now. And because of that, I'd rather just keep him in the football game. Again, we talk about it all the time with how many chances did you get when, certain draft picks and this and that and the other thing. And I think Jordan Morgan's a good player and a developing player. But I saw, just for me personally, the way that Sean Ryan hits, the way people move when Sean Ryan hits them, I'd like to see that a little bit more. And I like that level of physicality. So I think both those guys showed well. I was happy to see Aaron Banks play like he did. I thought he was good at the second level. I just think he attacked his angles properly. He just looked like a really good football player.
That was one of the ones that was surprising to me because I'd heard buzz online of like, oh, Aaron Banks isn't good. He's not going to live up to the contract. And like in real time, I'm like, seemed fine. And then I went back and obviously watched it and I finished up the offensive study. I'm like, he had a really nice game. Like there was no major issues with him whatsoever. He wasn't getting beat off of his spot. Like you said, he played physical, got to the second level. He's a really unique player. He moves really well for his size. And just kind of hits his landmarks and is able to do what he wants to do. So yeah, I had no issue with him at all in this game.
He didn't start the preseason well. He didn't look good in the preseason. And, especially with all those, because listen, you go back to the San Francisco line, it's like, okay, we got Trent Williams and who? Right. And then they're very average. And you saw it when Trent went out this weekend. Like they're very, very average against good fronts, right? If you watch San Francisco Seahawks game. So
for sure.
That's just kind of been the stigma over there. And obviously to sign him for the money you did, there's some questions. He did not start the preseason well. He had, the first two series are not what you want to see from the guy. So I think it was important, obviously for him personally, but also from the organization standpoint, like, see, we feel good about this. Obviously Elgton Jenkins, there's some things that Elton's going to work on from a drive standpoint at the center position, just trying to figure out where you angle your body and how that's going to help Jacobs. But, he's obviously going to be really, really integral to the success of this offensive line. He's a very, very good player, but moving him is kind of a big, not a risk necessarily, but, it's a little bit of a, what are we doing? And if Aaron plays that way, it's going to work out pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I was really excited about it. Omer wants to know what you thought of the new guy that they got from Philly. Obviously, Darian Kennard was able to fill in for a few snaps there. What did you see from him at right tackle?
Just that he hadn't been in the system very much. He's not obviously as athletic as Zach Tom. So if you're just kind of measuring like, okay, what do you got versus what do you had? It wasn't as good. He's a little bit of a waist bender, kind of ducks his head and kind of goes into contact that way at times. But he's certainly a prod. Like all these young guys, you just have to look at, or guys that aren't starters on this team, you just look at as projects, right? Because honestly, you have a really good starting five right now. Like this, I'm not going to say they're the most dominant line in the National Football League, but across the board, you got to feel really good about every position. And so all of these younger guys that are playing, we talk about, the guys that were rookies last year, obviously the kid from NC State, and then we got to talk about Kennard. Like, I think you've got the makings of a different kind of offensive line in the sense that a lot of those guys are massive.
Yep.
And that's a whole, whether you want to run that as a package or whether you're just kind of grooming yourself to be a different kind of line over the course of the next 3 to 5 years, it remains to be seen. But I feel really good about all those guys. I feel good about how they drafted. And I really listen, something that we don't talk about too much is in my opinion, Adam Stenavich was the best line coach that the Packers have had in a while. Like, I thought he was an elite level offensive line coach. Now that he's offensive coordinator, I thought they took a step back from an offensive line perspective with Butkus. Nothing against Butkus. I just think Adams is a really good coach, right? What does happen though when you get veterans in is now I'm hoping, and my expectation is based on what I had with Mike Sherman, is that now the play calling and kind of the understanding the rhythm of what the line can and can't do is going to continue to evolve almost on a weekly basis, because you're talking to a guy who has an intimate experience with offensive line play. So I'm interested to see how that dynamic plays out towards the for the rest of the season. But yeah, generally speaking, I like Kennard and I like all those guys, but they're clearly not starting for a reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. What did you think of Jordan in this game?
Jordan Morgan?
Sorry, Jordan Love. I should have probably clarified the other Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, Jordan Love's I think that they put him in an interesting position because they felt good about not having to worry about the pass rush as much. They kept a lot of guys in, obviously a lot, but they were running a lot of these deeper routes. And good news, he hits Golden on the crosser. He hits the deep ball with Romeo.
Yep.
Obviously, he laced that one to Tucker Kraft. The great ball for the touchdown with Jaden Reed. He makes some nice plays. Footwork's always still going to be something that you look at and go, okay, is there a couple things you can be better here? But, generally speaking, in a game like that, where you're taking these like 20-yard plus routes that take a little bit of time to develop, and you're getting in the pockets, like, where do I got to go with the ball? I thought he played well. It's just, as an offense, you want to put yourself in a lot of more third and short, second and manageable, where you're not always kind of, second and 7, you're kind of like, all right, now we got a section of our play sheet that's for like second and 7, whatever, but it's not that big. And if you're already through it in the second quarter, it's like, okay, what do we do now, right? So I thought he played well. There's obviously room for growth, but I personally like the concept of, listen, we've got some, because the other thing that they did in this game was they're still kind of messing around, and we talked about this with Golden showing up. Is Matt LaFleur going to see how many different routes can everybody run? Like, for example, they ran Jaden Reed one time on a crossing route. It was like, like a deep crosser, right? Like a Justin Jefferson route. And it's not his route. Like, he just got plastered. Like, it's just not his route, right? And so, but you have to start doing all that kind of stuff. And so you find out where those pieces fit now. And I think in a couple of weeks, you'll see some more production.
Yeah, I think so too. Umar points out no offensive penalties, which was nice to see. We've talked about for a while, Mike, the attention to detail stuff. Again, not perfect. It's week 1. We talked about some of the tight ends and the run blocking and things like that. But overall, I thought as a team, some of the attention to detail stuff, not shooting yourself in the foot with the penalties, not putting the ball on the ground, not having drops. It felt like a much more focused team.
Yeah, Listen, you want to see the minimization of pre-snap penalties, right? You watched like the Chicago game last night. It looked like a joke, right? I mean, it's a dumpster fire. It's a dumpster fire. And so not having that problem, not being like the old Raiders teams, is like a fantastic way to start the football season. And then if you just look at it from a detail standpoint in terms of assignments, like there's a handful of calls. Okay, maybe I need to switch linebackers, in the run game here and there, or maybe I need to check through a route, or it's like, you remember when they ran the bubble and they had a 3-by-1 with the bubble. They were going to run the dive, and then I forgot who was down the slot, but he kind of just missed him, a wide open play. They're running an RPO. Like, those little things I think are going to come along during the course of the season, probably immediately. It's just like you need to make those corrections once, but generally speaking, man, if you can get out of these games and stay under like 4 or 5 penalties, you're going to feel pretty good about your chances of winning early in the season.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, they just looked very prepared and ready to go for this game, which was awesome to see. They've had some week 1 issues in the past. They certainly did not have them this week, and now hopefully they can carry that over week 2 into Washington. You mentioned that Bears-Vikings game. You mentioned it was a little bit of a train wreck for Chicago. Obviously, the pre-snap penalties, as Ty points out here, was definitely a piece of that as well. What did you take away from that Vikings-Bears game?
Man, I'd say this. Obviously, I think Kevin O'Connell's one of the better play callers in the league. And JJ McCarthy, I remember when he came out and Harbaugh's just, saying this, he's a first round pick, guys. Like, he's a really, really good football player. And you just saw glimpses of why he said that, and the kind of leader he is, and the kind of competitor he is. You really like that. On the flip side, if you weren't a Caleb Williams fan going into the game, he didn't do anything to turn you over, right? He's got incredible athleticism, but when you talk about all the, getting out of the huddle late, the motion 3 seconds before the snap, and then if there's that many like motion false start penalties, at some point you're like, it's not all the offensive line anymore. Like there's something else going on from a communication standpoint, whether it's like just communicating the snap count. There was a play last night where I think the right guard jumped off sides and he's like looking at the huddle, like, it's on one, right? Like they don't know. They caught it on TV. So there's a lot of question marks, not about his talent, but obviously about how fast Ben, who's incredibly smart and a great communicator and just a great guy, somebody you want to work with, but how fast can Ben get him on his page? And I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains there. And I think everybody in the organization probably realizes that. But, listen, if you lose games that you shouldn't lose over the course of the next couple of weeks, it could get ugly down there real fast.
That Chicago Bears schedule, I'm going to see if I can pull it up really quick, is ridiculous. They're
about to lose to the Lions, right? I mean, they're about to lose to the Lions here pretty soon.
Yeah, you would think. Detroit, very, very high favorites in Detroit. They have Dallas the week after that. Then they have at Raiders, which is on the road. That's a potentially winnable game, but that's one they can get. They also have a week 5 bye week. Then they go to Washington. They get the Saints at home, which will be winnable. Then they go to Baltimore, to Cincinnati, have the Giants at home, but then at Minnesota, Pittsburgh, at Philly, at Green Bay, Cleveland, Green Bay, at San Francisco, and Detroit the rest of the year. So that is a tough schedule for the Chicago Bears. And that's one of those, like, they did not respond. And I knew it's a new coaching staff, etc. After losing on that Hail Mary to Washington last year, they did not respond well to adversity after that. They could see some adversity this year. I'm very interested to see how they respond to it this year.
Good coaching staff. It takes time. Quarterback play is everything with that offense. And if you don't have that down, you're going to have some real problems, because you see, it's like you watch our game and you say, well, Jared Goff, the fact that he can't run is a real issue for the Detroit Lions right now.
Yeah.
And he must be able to sling. He must be able to sling the rock and make some great pre-snap decisions, right? And now you look at like Caleb Williams, like he can run, so you can erase that. But if you look at their offense, it was really like him making plays in the first quarter with his feet. That's not what we talk about when we talk about quarterback play, or like why I brought in Ben Johnson. We didn't bring in Ben Johnson so he can scramble and for an 18-yard, phenomenal touchdown run. It's great that he can do that, but if you're looking at it from like a process and development standpoint, in the context of like how we're going to get better, that's tough.
It really, really is. So I know we're early in the season. It's week 1. Everyone likes to jump to conclusions immediately following week 1. It's our first real information gathering of the season. How do you view Green Bay after this week 1 win against Detroit, and kind of how they stand against maybe the rest of the NFL right now?
Yeah, it is too early to tell. I'll say this: you just love the way that Detroit's the 2-time reigning division champs. It's hard for me because I'm an offensive line guy, so it's hard to underscore like how much of a tragic situation they are at the guard position in Detroit. Like as good as our guys played, they played that much worse, right? They were just absolutely awful. And so I don't really know how good our pass rush is. I know how good Micah Parsons was against Penei Sewell and Rashawn Gary. Like I know how good they are, but I don't know what it's going to look like as far as being able to push the pocket and get like even average competition, because that was substandard for the NFL, really, as far as what you saw at the guard position for Detroit. But that's a very good defense. They're physical. They got a lot of pride. They have a lot of talent on offense. We did a great job across the board, really, of winning for those matchups for the most part. And so you have to feel like it'll be interesting to see how they go on the road. I wasn't aware of how loud Green Bay is now with the stadium closed off. Like it's next level loud. It wasn't like that when I played. And so I think that has a huge impact and a huge advantage for the defense. I'll be interested to see what that translates to on the road. But knowing that Jordan Love's got a lot of weapons now at his disposal, and understanding how great of a play caller Matt LaFleur is, and I do like the offensive line, I feel like you're going to be able to put up a lot of points. And so it just turns into like, do you feel good about this defense or not? And the answer is, well, Xavier McDaniel is one of the best defensive backs in the league. Edgerrin Cooper is going to be one of the best linebackers in the league. And now you got Micah Parsons, who's one of the best rushers in the league. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about it. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the standard of how you create a defense, right? Is you get like the best player at each position and then put them on the field together. So, love it.
It's usually a pretty good recipe, that's for sure. All right, before we get you out of here, one last one from Alex. What did you think of Elton Jenkins at center?
I mean, Jenkins is a really good football player. And Jenkins naturally has kind of better footwork at center than I thought he might. I was impressed by that. There was a couple spots where he's giving up some leverage or maybe trying to turn his body too early. And again, I don't know if that's a function of maybe he's being told to do that and not just staying on his angle, or he's kind of trying to do that because he thinks that's the right thing to do. But there's a couple plays that he probably watched the film and like to have back. But generally speaking, like, the reason they moved him there is because he's a good guard, but they thought he really could be an elite center. And I think there's no reason after the week one to think anything else. He's a really good football player.
Yeah, I'm excited about what he looks like with a little bit more repetitions at center. He missed a lot of training camp with some of those injuries. And of course, he played center in college. It's not an entirely new position. And he's made some spot starts and things like that over the course of his career. But I think as he gets more and more attuned to playing that over and over and over, I just think it's going to get even better and better as the course of the season goes along. All right, Mike, you and I are going to be recording our for tomorrow here momentarily, but anything you want to plug on the way out?
No, let's just enjoy this show and see where it takes us.
Yeah, very excited about it as well. Normally, Mike and I are going to be available on Mondays. So noon on Mondays is where you're going to normally find this show. Just switched it up a little bit this week with Mike traveling to Green Bay and then back home. So we will see you guys next Monday. Mike and I, again, will be back tomorrow morning for the normal regular podcast breaking down Packers Commanders. So look forward to that as well. Find him on social media at Mike Wall 68. You can find me at Andy Herman NFL. That's going to do it for now. Thank you so much for all the questions and comments and the 370 people in chat. We'll see you guys soon. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.